Okay, I'm Sandra Gidzulich from the national agency, governmental agency. So I'm talking about very practical things that we do. When we say we, it's the European member states. So actually, these are what we do in European level. But I'm talking about what we do in Italy. So the framework is SDGs 10 and 11. So disparities and urban policies. So first, this is just to remind you about the structures of urban networks. You can see from the pictures here the importance of small and medium-sized cities plus the big ones. So you can see all over Europe we have these networks of small and medium-sized cities plus the very big and global urban areas. And here you can see these disparities. We tackle disparities at different levels, but when we say we, it's always member states, so European member states, because these are European policies. So at different scales of territorial scales, you have different disparities. In this case, at national level, you can see the disparities between the north and the south. There are structural disparities. Then, of course, when you go inside the urban level, you have disparities, very big disparities. The bigger the urban area is, the bigger disparities you may find. And this is the framework we work. It's an intergovernmental process with all member states sitting in the same table, and we actually create a common jargon. The last political document was agreed, was the new Leipzig Charter. It was after the Amsterdam Pact, after several other pacts. And actually, these frameworks, you know that urban policies are at national competencies. It's not at European level at all. But member states agreed on common approaches. And actually, this has started in 2000, 2002. And in these 20 years, we can see that practices are really convergent. So practices at local level as well are really convergent. And these are some examples that you may find on the web. I'm not entering into detail because of the time, but of course here it's also to agree on which kind of practices we do want to promote at the local level. Here, the urban agenda for the EU, this a common exercise of intergovernmental process brings to European partnership. Partnership of what? Of who? Member states, regions, cities, but also practitioners, also NGOs. And the idea of these partnerships, in this case, we have several partnerships, but in this case, in the urban agenda, these partnerships are meant to find out which are the challenges for cities, which are the challenges in terms of a regulatory framework, financial framework, or knowledge, lack of knowledge, and to create actions for them to really be able to promote and implement projects at the urban level. So it's a really practical things also, so from the governmental agenda, we go to the very practical thing agenda. And actually you can see here, these partnerships are really strictly linked to the SDGs. So the European Commission also, thanks to the outcome of these partnerships, also may create the monitoring that enable to fit the system of the SDGs. This is an example of a partnership we actually coordinate with Germany. So we at national governmental level. So about culture and cultural heritage. Why it's important? Because in this case, the idea, there was several actions, but in this case, I wanted to point out that also the identity, the cultural identity of so if you go to the very dismissed neighborhood, very poor neighborhood, of course you are the political and governmental level, you have a public leverage, you can change and rehabilitate neighborhoods, poor neighborhoods, but you have always to remember reconversion for who? Because poverty is not to be solved. So just move. So if you go to a very poor neighborhood, then of course this neighborhood is going to be rehabilitated from the brownfield to the really sustainable development. But the poverty is likely to be moved. So the idea is to create synergies with people living in the neighborhood. So to create really bottom-up approaches, bottom-up plans, where the third sector, the NGOs, and the citizen can be involved directly in the project. And these are examples from Italy that you can see, but also other member states do this kind of things. We call it common goods. So the common goods are places that are considered very important for our local communities, and despite they are poor or in low conditions, they can create a reconversion of this kind of places. And this means is the cohesion policy. So these are just the framework of the cohesion policies. Under these big objectives, there are 5 in the next programming period. We all work about, and we all design and define projects and programs. Related to the SDGs 10 and 11, we have the OP4, so it's a jargon to say social inclusion, and OP5, another jargon to say integrated development. So the last things are just some examples. So the national strategies on inner areas, these areas are the remote areas, so very far from services and therefore depopulated. So there are special exercise and integrated strategies to tackle these specific areas. We have actually the program that we manage for metropolitan cities with this structure, which is basically to go to metropolitan cities with an integrated framework, so digital, social, environmental, and so we tackle the problems. The urban problems are always multi-sector, so we tackle all the problems in metropolitan areas. And these are the metropolitan cities, but also we tackle the social problems of medium-sized cities. And these are just the few examples. I want to end up with projects concerning the problem of the housing, so housing for poor people. And we have this kind of exercises, guarantee for poor people, and also some kind of exercises to create and recreate the social communities in very poor areas where people do not speak to each other, there is no services and mutual help. So there are some exercises where association, NGOs actually recreate the social community through several helping elderlies or taking care of children. So these are examples or schools of neighborhoods. These are some examples of what it is possible to be done from the top down to combining top-down philosophy, because we are national government, but also considering and taking into account the bottom-up. So what actually the communities can give you, can actually arrange for you. And that's it. There are some examples. I will leave it to you, but basically that's it. Thank you.